Hey, this is Troy with Now with Troy, and today we're going to talk about data on ServiceNow. If you've been around a while, you've probably heard me say that ServiceNow is an enterprise platform for structured work. One of the benefits that come from it is there's so many different platforms, there's different workflows. As they say, let's workflow it. But those workflows are really tasks, activities we have to do related to things that we need to do the activities on. And all of that underneath it sits on a database that is underlying all of ServiceNow. Today, we're going to go a little bit deeper geek than normal. I like to keep the Now with Troy focused on business problems, business challenges, and how ServiceNow really addresses them. But today, welcome to my weekend. I went a little bit to deep geek, all the things at Third Arrow when we've been talking about common service data model and other things have got me flashbacks to an application I wrote years ago. But it needed to be fixed. And so I spent some time this weekend, got it updated, and it's working again. And so we're going to dive into three things. We're going to talk about tables in ServiceNow, the SysDB object. We're going to talk about the dictionary, SysDictionary. And then we're also going to talk about the app I created years ago called the Platform Visualization app that's now public on GitHub and Bitbucket. And so let's jump into that. And so with that, let me switch over to the desktop and let me pop this up so I'm here too. If you don't have a personal developer instance, I recommend you get one. You can go to developer.servicenow.com, sign up, and then you can ask for and request a free instance of your own. If you work at a place that has one, you can explore this in your own environment so you have access to, but you will need administrator rights on whichever instance you want to explore on. So that's why I'm doing it in a personal developer instance. I have mine just loaded right to the home page. Again, mine is Rome with very few things added on. I added on some CSDM and some CMDB applications, but in general, it's pretty stock. And so again, I talked about a couple different things. The first one we're going to talk about is SysDB object. I'll leave that there for a little bit. This is a table where ServiceNow stores information about the tables in ServiceNow. And so we click into it, and what that does is that loads, and you can see there's 4,339 entries into this table. And the key thing that we want to look at here is this extends table. As you work with ServiceNow, one of the things you'll find is they've done a very good job of architecting data and types of data that can inherit, right? Depending on your programming background. Inheritance is, as we create a table, as we create something, we'll create the attributes that relate to that type of thing and anything that's derived from it. Common example is talking about, let's say we say there's trees, and then we'd have all the characteristic of a tree defined there. We say a subclass of that could be citrus trees. And there might be some unique things we want to capture about a citrus tree. Subclasses off of that could be a lemon, orange, and a grapefruit. Again, there might be unique fields that are specific to each of those that we want to keep track of. And so in that simplified model, in this table, I'd have entries for each of those tables here. And the extends from would show is that citrus tree extending a tree, or is it orange extending a citrus tree? And so you can see how that builds out. But this table doesn't show us our fields. For that, we need to go to the second table that I mentioned, our dictionary. Suitable name, right? To get to that, it's SysDictionary, and I always do list.do. I've been around this for a while. It's just old habits. There's some other short URLs you can get to it, but I type sys_dictionary_list.do. And that brings us over here. So out of those 4,000 some tables, there's now 130,000 entries. And so for each one, what we'll see is we'll see the table name, the column name, and some additional information from it. But we don't have the inheritance that we had before. So those are the two places to look if you're wondering where data can and should be stored in ServiceNow. Look inside the SysDB object to look for the tables, and then jump into the SysDictionary to see which fields are defined for each of those. Now, here's where we jump into platform visualization. Let me turn this off for a second. And as we talk about platform visualization, where this really started is years ago, I was working with a client that had a very large CMDB, and they were adding lots of fields to it to cover their specific use cases. And they weren't really sure where that should be stored in the table of the different classes, which classes they could just use out of the box. And when we got together, I could draw that on the whiteboard and they could see it. But there were times where I wanted to equip them so they could do some of this on their own. And so I created an application that I called Platform Visualization that dives into both of those tables that we just showed. It dives into both the SysDictionary and the SysDB object to say, what are the tables that extend from this table that I start with? And where are fields defined at each level as I go down? Somewhere, I forget which release it was, but somewhere between Kingston and Madrid, could have been Kingston, London, Madrid, I'm not sure which release. ServiceNow changed the way SysDictionary is structured. It used to be that only the fields that were created at that class were defined in SysDictionary. And while it's true for many, many areas, task is one where there's extensions from it and they're only defined at the class where it's defined. Inside of things derived from the CMDB, all of the fields from parent classes are duplicated in those subclasses. And so there's more than 700 classes inside the CMDB. And inside the SysDictionary now, all of those fields are defined. So this weekend, I sorted out how to process that out so we can see truly where class fields are defined still inside the CMDB or anything extended from it. And so with that, let me go back to the desktop and I'll show you a little bit about platform visualization. Desktop, camera again. It's an app I created, like I said, years ago. But if we take platform, it shows up. I created a handful of menu items. And I'm actually going to use this other tab up here to show them, but to navigate through, if you install this app, here's how you'd find them. Just type platform visualization. I'll describe what these are. You can see I have tooltips on it. Class extensions basically shows all of the classes that are extended from the CMDB and how they relate, and you can search the fields. Class references, like you might imagine, is similar, except looking instead at inheritance, but looking at references in how, which other classes are involved due to reference, table references. You can combine both asset and CMDB. I built in the capability of the tool to be able to, pass it through URL, a list of different tables you want to look at. So let's say you want to look at the asset tree and the CMDB tree. You can see that here. Task extensions is a short one, and this one I'll click. Let you show how fast it loads. It's not bad with something like task, and what this does is it provides a clickable map that we can see. Each of these tables that is rendered will have an outline that's either regular or bold. Task, you can see, is bold because there are things that it extends from it. If you right click on it, this application will pop up a little pop-up box and show you all of the fields that are defined at that class. And this one, task, has 41 subclasses, 61 fields are defined at the base task record level. If I pull up an asset task and I right click on it, there's 6 additional fields defined for the extended task of an asset task. One bug that I'm trying to fix here, and I'd love your help, is getting rid of that box. This one, recommended field remediation, is a task that's extended from the task table, but it's not filled in, which means there's no fields defined on it. And so this is a way that you can visualize and search through it. Task is not that deep, but let's jump over here. This next tab, I preloaded the CMDB tree. This one, if you run this, it will take a while because it has to parse through all of the 700 plus tables and all of the fields are defined in them, plus search backwards to make sure that the fields that are seeing in each class aren't already defined in one of the parent classes. And so it's doing a fair amount of work. There's a better way to design this so that server work is done on the server and passed back through an Ajax call. But right now it's brute force done inside of Apache Jelly. Told you this was going to be deep geek, right? But what you can do is you can search inside of this. And so let's say I want to pull this up and I want to search for where something is managed. And let's just say manage. And I'll show you how this renders. It basically searches through it and then highlights where it found something in red, and then opens only that part of the extension tree. And the CMDB is huge. Here there's 884 nodes after I've installed a couple applications, 2,650 fields defined across those different classes. When I searched, it found 11 different classes that matched manage. And I'll show you how those are rendered. You can see here HP Operations Manager, and the outline is in red. Same with Panorama File Manager or Firewall Manager here. The outline is highlighted. On configuration and base configuration item, the outline is still blue, which means the table itself didn't match, but the center is highlighted because there's a field that's defined there that does match. And so it's a way that you can click in and then you can see the fields. We can see managed by is defined at the base configuration item, and it shows up at that point. Right click again and it goes away. So again, this is a way to extend and search to see where things are in the CMDB or where things are in the task structure or anything else you want to search. There's more things in the URL that you can do, different types of searches, and you can add, a comma separated list of different tables. You can include several inside the search. If you'd like to help maintain this, there's two different repositories, one on Bitbucket, one on GitHub. When I get to the GitHub one, I'll explain why. The repository on Bitbucket is where I've kept kind of the issues that I've had, kept some notes, very brief wiki, and I've wanted to extend this so it shows some of the state flows as well for both default states in a task as well as stages in a workflow. Used that before, but it was all done in a UI client script, and I think there's a better way to do it. So it started some of that. So platform visualization down the road will include both of those things. That's that one. If I go over to Bitbucket, here's the repository for the application itself. You can see it has a standard description that you'll see from a repository created from ServiceNow. So don't edit this, it's the application itself. But this is the one that if you want to load it from App Studio within your developer instance, you'd set it up so you could clone this repo and pull from there. I'll take a XML of the application and put it inside of this repo so you can pull just a copy of it if you'd like to make it a little bit easier for you to start. So I'll have to add that. But with that, I hope that helps. And I look forward to your thoughts and comments, because ServiceNow is that enterprise structure for work that spans the organization. And often that includes understanding where data resides, data that you might reference, data that you might extend as you look at creating custom and unique tables as needed, that you don't alter the base tables, but you extend them to different types. Or if you're looking in the CMDB, there's lots of tables. Where is the right level in that tree of extended tables to add tables or use what's already there? Sometimes the biggest challenge is finding what's already on the platform for to use. And so I hope looking at SysDB Object, SysDictionary, and of course the platform visualization app is something that proves useful to you. If not, please reach out. I look forward to your questions. And if you want to see this, if you want to explore a PDI and you want me to walk through some tables with you, I'm glad to do so. I look forward to connecting with you again. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.